When I saw the condom slip out of her pants pocket, I knew it was over. Everything I thought was solid in my life crumbled in that single moment. But what do you do when the woman you've built your life with stands before you, clutching a knife, ready to defend herself, not from an attacker, but from her own lies? I'll get to how things escalated that far. But first, let me tell you how it all began. To anyone on the outside, Amanda and I were the perfect couple. We weren't the lovey-dovey type you see plastered all over Instagram, but we were stable, disciplined, grounded. Our marriage wasn't built on fireworks or passion. It was built on practicality and respect. We were both career-driven people, climbing the ladders of success in our respective fields. She worked in project management at a major tech company, while I held a senior position at a marketing firm. Kids were never part of the equation. That was one thing we agreed on early in our relationship. We weren't the nurturing type. We valued our time, our freedom. After a few years of marriage, I made the decision to get a vasectomy. It seemed logical. Why risk an accidental pregnancy when we were both so firmly against it? Routine became the backbone of our life. Monday through Friday was all about work. We'd come home, eat dinner, watch a couple of TV episodes, and go to bed. Weekends were spent catching up on errands, with the occasional dinner out with friends. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked for us. Or so I thought. Looking back, the signs were subtle at first. I remember one evening about 6 months ago when Amanda came home later than usual. She texted me saying her team decided to go out for drinks to celebrate the completion of a big project. It was out of character, but not unheard of. I didn't question it. But then it happened again, and again. The late nights became more frequent, and her explanations grew more casual. Team-building exercises, last-minute meetings, or catching up with an old college friend. She always had a reason. I trusted her. Of course I did. We had spent over 8 years together, and she had never given me a reason not to. Still, something felt off. There were other small things. The scent of unfamiliar cologne on her clothes, the slightly disheveled look she sometimes had when she walked through the door. Her hair, usually immaculate, appeared tousled in a way that didn't match her professional demeanor. I told myself I was being paranoid. She had a stressful job after all. Late nights and after-work drinks were part of corporate culture. But doubts began to creep into my mind like shadows in the corners of a dark room. I tried to shake them off. It wasn't like I had hard evidence. Besides, if I confronted her, what would I even say? "Hey, I noticed your hair's messy and you smell like someone else's cologne. Are you cheating on me?" It sounded absurd. Yet, deep down, a small voice whispered, "Something isn't right." One evening, Amanda was in the shower, and I found myself wandering into our bedroom. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. Maybe just some reassurance that I was being ridiculous. My eyes landed on her purse, sitting open on the dresser. I hesitated for a moment, guilt tugging at me, but curiosity won. I reached in and pulled out her phone. She had always been protective of her phone, but not in an obvious way. She didn't hide it from me or guard it with her life, but it was clear she valued her privacy. I scrolled through her recent messages and saw nothing out of the ordinary, mostly work-related texts and a few from her best friend. I sighed in relief, feeling a bit ashamed of myself for snooping. Then I saw the app notifications. A dating app I didn't recognize had a badge for 3 new messages. My stomach tightened. I clicked on it, but it required a password. My mind raced. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was spam. But as I stood there, phone in hand, the weight of suspicion pressed down on me like a boulder. The shower turned off. Panic surged through me, and I quickly put the phone back where I found it. I heard Amanda humming softly as she stepped into the bedroom, a towel wrapped around her. She smiled at me, oblivious to the storm brewing inside my head. "Everything, okay?" she asked, her voice light and casual. "Yeah," I forced a smile. "Just tired from work." She nodded, seemingly satisfied with my answer, and started getting dressed. I watched her from the corner of my eye, wondering how someone could act so normal if they were hiding something so devastating. That night, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing with questions. Was I being paranoid? Or was there something more going on? I couldn't shake the feeling that the life I thought we had built together was slowly unraveling. I told myself I needed more proof before jumping to conclusions. But deep down, I knew the truth was already knocking on the door. I just wasn't ready to open it. I woke up that morning with the same weight on my chest that had been suffocating me for weeks. The unease wasn't new, but it was getting heavier. Every day felt like a test of endurance, pretending that everything was fine while my gut screamed otherwise. I thought about the dating app notification on her phone, the unexplained late nights, the subtle changes in her behavior. I hadn't confronted her about it. Not yet. I was holding on to the last frayed threads of hope that maybe I was wrong. But the threads snapped that night. It was around midnight when Amanda stumbled through the front door. I was in the living room, half watching some crime drama while pretending to work on my laptop. The door banged against the wall, and I looked up to see her nearly fall as she kicked off her shoes. Her hair was a mess, her makeup smeared, and her blouse was half untucked. "Long night?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though my pulse was already racing. She laughed, a sloppy, drunken laugh, and waved her hand dismissively. "Just drinks with the team. Don't start, okay?" I didn't respond. I watched as she struggled to hang her coat, missed the hook, and let it drop to the floor. She was drunk, but not in the way she usually was after a few glasses of wine at dinner. This was different, messier, more chaotic. "Come on," I said, standing up. "Let's get you to bed." She muttered something under her breath and staggered toward the hallway. I followed her, my mind racing with a mixture of concern and suspicion. When she reached our bedroom, she flopped onto the bed without even bothering to change. I leaned down to help her sit up so I could at least take off her jacket. That's when I saw it. A condom. Used. Lying on the floor next to her crumpled pants. For a moment, my brain couldn't process what I was looking at. My mind tried to reject it, like it was some sort of optical illusion or cruel trick. But there it was, undeniable and real. The smell of alcohol, sweat, and something else, something intimate, filled the air, making my stomach churn. I picked it up, holding it between my fingers like it was a live grenade. My hands shook, and my breath came in short, ragged bursts. I felt like I was drowning, gasping for air but unable to breathe. My entire body went numb, but at the same time, every nerve was on fire. "Amanda," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "What the hell is this?" She groaned, rolling over onto her back. "What are you talking about?" I held the condom in front of her face. Her eyes widened, and for a split second, the drunken haze lifted. She sat up, blinking rapidly, as if she could make the evidence disappear by simply refusing to acknowledge it. I don't know," she stammered. "It's not what you think." "Not what I think." My voice rose, cracking with the weight of everything I had been holding inside. "It's a fucking condom, Amanda. In our bedroom. What am I supposed to think?" Her face twisted, and for a moment I thought she was going to cry, but instead she scowled, her defenses kicking in. "Why are you going through my stuff? You—" "Don't trust me now? Don't you dare turn this on me!" I shouted, throwing the condom to the floor like it was poison. "You came home like this, smelling like him, and you expect me to just ignore it?" She got up, wobbling slightly before steadying herself against the dresser. "You're being ridiculous," she muttered, avoiding my eyes. "Who is he?" I demanded, stepping closer. My hands were clenched into fists at my sides, not out of a desire to hurt her, but because I didn't know what else to do with the overwhelming surge of anger. "Is it someone from work?" One of those late-night team-building sessions? There's no one, she insisted, but her voice was weak, cracking under the pressure. You're making this a bigger deal than it is. A bigger deal? I laughed bitterly. You've been lying to me for months, Amanda. Don't you see what you've done to us? She pushed past me, heading toward the kitchen. I followed, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. Amanda, stop! I grabbed her arm, but she yanked it free and stumbled toward the counter, where she grabbed a knife from the block. For a moment, the world stood still. My eyes locked on the blade in her hand, and my breath hitched. The woman I had loved, trusted, and built a life with was standing in front of me, weapon in hand, as if I were the enemy. Back off, she warned, her voice shaking. You don't get to accuse me like this without proof. I raised my hands, palms open. I have all the proof I need, Amanda. Just look at yourself. Look at the mess you've made. Her eyes darted around the room as if she were searching for an escape route. Her chest heaved, and tears streamed down her face, smearing her mascara into dark streaks. The knife trembled in her grip, and for a moment, I thought she might actually use it. Please, I said, my voice softer now. Put the knife down. We can talk about this. Her shoulders slumped, and she let out a strangled sob. The knife clattered to the floor, and she collapsed to her knees, covering her face with her hands. Her cries echoed through the kitchen, raw and broken, like the sound of something shattering beyond repair. I'm sorry, she whispered between sobs. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was a mistake. A stupid, horrible mistake. I stood, there staring down at her, feeling like I was watching a stranger. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone who had betrayed me in the worst possible way. How long? I asked, my voice hollow. She didn't answer. How long? Amanda? I repeated louder this time. 3 months, she choked out. It didn't mean anything. I swear, it didn't mean anything. But it meant everything to me. I turned away, running my hands through my hair as I tried to process what she had just admitted. 3 months of lies. 3 months of coming home to me, smiling like everything was fine while she was sleeping with someone else. She crawled toward me, grabbing the hem of my shirt. Please don't leave. We can fix this. I'll do anything. Just give me a chance. I looked down at her, at the tears streaming down her face, and felt nothing but emptiness. The love I once had for her was buried beneath layers of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak. I pulled away from her grasp and took a step back. You already had your chance, I said quietly, and you destroyed it. The silence that followed was deafening. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, the sound of Amanda's sobs still echoing in my ears. She was on the floor, broken and begging, but I felt like I was the one who had been shattered. The weight of her confession sat heavy on my chest, making it hard to breathe. 3 months of betrayal. 3 months of lies. There was no coming back from this. Without a word, I turned and walked to the bedroom. My hands trembled as I yanked open the closet doors and began pulling out her clothes. Dresses, blouses, jeans, everything she had crammed. Into this space over the years came tumbling down into a messy pile at my feet. I grabbed as much as I could carry, stormed over to the window, and threw it all outside. The cold night air hit my face, but I barely felt it. Behind me, I heard her footsteps as she followed me into the bedroom. "What are you doing?" she cried, her voice hoarse from sobbing. "Please stop!" I didn't stop. I went back for more. Jackets, shoes, anything that belonged to her. I wanted it all out. I wanted her gone. "Ryan, stop!" she screamed, grabbing my arm. Her nails dug into my skin, but I didn't care. I shook her off and kept going. "You don't live here anymore," I said coldly. My voice didn't sound like mine. It was distant, hollow, like it belonged to someone else. Take your stuff and leave. Please, she begged, falling to her knees again. We can fix this. I'll quit my job if that's what it takes. I'll block his number. I'll do anything. Just don't give up on us. I laughed bitterly, throwing another pile of clothes onto the growing heap outside the window. There is no us anymore, Amanda. You made sure of that. Tears streamed down her face, but I didn't feel any sympathy. She had destroyed everything we had, and now she was begging me to save what little was left? It was too late. Ryan, she sobbed, crawling toward me. I love you. I made a mistake, but I love you. Doesn't that mean anything? I stopped, for a moment, looking down at her. This was the woman I had once planned to spend the rest of my life with. The woman I trusted, who had been my partner, my best friend. And now, she was just a stranger to me. Love, I said, my voice dripping with bitterness. You don't cheat on someone you love. Her sobs grew louder, but I couldn't let them sway me. I couldn't let her tears undo the resolve that had been building inside me since the moment I saw that condom. I'm filing for divorce, I said, my words cutting through the air like a knife. First thing tomorrow. She shook her head, violently. No, you can't do this. Please, Ryan, please. I stepped back, creating distance between us. Pack the rest of your things and get out. I don't care where you go, but you're not staying here. For a moment, she just sat there, crying into her hands. Then, slowly, she got up and walked toward the closet. Her shoulders hunched as if the weight of the world was pressing down on her. She grabbed a suitcase and began stuffing clothes into it, her sobs muffled but still audible. I stood by the door, watching her pack. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to demand every detail of her affair, to know exactly how she could betray me like this. But another part of me was done. I didn't need the details. The damage had already been done, and nothing she said would change that. When she was finished, she dragged the suitcase to the door and turned to face me one last time. Her eyes were red and swollen, her face streaked with tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't say anything. I just opened the door and gestured for her to leave. With a final sob, she stepped outside, pulling the suitcase behind her. I watched as she walked down the driveway, disappearing into the night. I didn't close the door until I could no longer see her. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time in years, the house felt empty. The air was heavy with the scent of her perfume, a painful reminder of what had just happened. I walked back to the bedroom, staring at the mess of clothes and broken memories scattered across the floor. I sat down on the edge of the bed and buried my face in my hands. The adrenaline that had been fueling me was gone, and now all I felt was exhaustion. My body ached, my head throbbed, and my chest felt like it had been ripped open. Stayed like that for what felt like hours, lost in a fog of pain and disbelief. How had it come to this? How had the life we built together fallen apart so quickly? The next few weeks were a blur. I filed for divorce, changed the locks, and deleted every photo of us from my phone. I couldn't bring myself to block her number, though. A part of me was still clinging to the past, even though I knew it was over. Work became my escape. I threw myself into projects, staying late at the office just to avoid coming home to the emptiness. My colleagues noticed the change in me, but I brushed off their concerns with excuses about deadlines and stress. Eventually, I started seeing a therapist. It wasn't an easy decision, but I knew I couldn't keep drowning in my own thoughts. The sessions helped me process the betrayal, the anger, and the grief. I learned to let go of the what-ifs and accept that some things were beyond my control. A few months later, I heard through a mutual friend that Amanda had moved to another city. She had lost her job after the affair became public within her office. Apparently, the guy she had been seeing was married, and when his wife found out, it created a scandal that neither of them could recover from. I thought about reaching out to her just to see how she was doing. But then I stopped myself. What good would it do? She was a chapter of my life that I had already closed. There was no point in reopening old wounds. It's been a year now since that night, and while the pain hasn't completely disappeared, it's no longer the thing that defines me. I've started dating again, cautiously letting people into my life without the fear of being hurt. I've learned to trust, but with boundaries this time. Looking back, I realized that what Amanda did was a betrayal, but it was also a lesson. I learned that love isn't enough without trust. I learned that sometimes the person you think you know the best can become a stranger. And I learned that healing isn't linear. It's messy, painful, and slow. But I'm healing. I don't hate Amanda. I don't wish her harm. I hope she finds whatever it is she's looking for. But as for me, I'm moving forward. My life isn't what I thought it would be, but maybe that's okay. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that set you free.